Across the Flow FM network, a Flow News 24 update.
Here at Flow News 24, we go to a very important agricultural story, one that has a political nature to it and one that is from overseas. This morning we take a look at how Dutch farmers are being forced out of their own farming market due to nitrogen pollution. And I use the quote in inverted commas with that. And this is extremely concerning. Not only have we got a government in Holland that is looking to suppress the farmers' right to protest now, but at the same time, they've been offered these buyouts of their farms. Now, these buyouts are of the nature of, in Australian dollars, about $1.5 million Australian dollars. Now, some people might say, oh, that's quite a lot of money. But in actual fact, to rebuild an intensive agriculture farm and meet all the conditions with silos and storage, with the ability to have buildings which actually house the animals so that they're kept out of the cold, driving snow, those sorts of farms are a lot more than $1.5 million to invest in. In fact, that might just be what you'd invest in just for your silos. So after months of protests from farmers, the closures of farms have begun to occur. And farmers are wanting to protest this because they see that the future of their farms, and one of the biggest exporters in the world, and livestock in Holland, that's the second biggest exporter of livestock in the world, particularly weaner calves or the younger calves. We're talking here of literally a massive industry that is going to be brought down by a government that's only doing so to meet nitrogen commitments under climate change rules. And so it's the EU that is also supporting those initiatives, and the Dutch government that are being pushed into this situation. Environmentalists have welcomed this scheme. They're saying that it's a good scheme, that it actually saves native forests. But these are intensive agricultural properties that actually aren't doing anything to native forests and aren't using native forests. They're not cutting down wood from those forests. But for some reason, environmentalists are trying to tie that farmers lose their properties so that we can cut back on nitrogen in order to save their forests. It is a bizarre situation. What's more bizarre about it is that the Dutch farmers, who you might have remembered that last year protests with their tractors in the streets of the major cities like Amsterdam and The Hague, they drove their tractors to the capital. Well, they're now being blocked from doing so again because that the government has decided to put emergency orders into their transport links to block this happening. This is a perplexing story, but it's one that's going to get worse everywhere if we give way to this climate fear that is continuing around the world, and farmers are forced out of their jobs and off their land, and we see these changes in the usage of their land. Then who provides the food to feed the world? It becomes a question that those that don't understand that nitrogen is a major component to put back into our ecosystems to grow crops so that our cattle actually can be produced and so that we can eat the food that they provide. But the people in the higher orders of this World Wildlife Fund and other key places like the EU and the World Health, and also we're talking here about a whole range of international organisations are forcing local farmers in Holland off their land.
A Flow News 24 update.